It has been so fun joining for the first Virtual Impact show today, and I'm just so inspired by all of the stories of the long run members. So thank you all for joining, and it is a delight to be able to share the story of HBD Príncipe. But before I dive into HBD Príncipe, I would love to give some context because you might not have heard of the island of Príncipe or even the country of São Tomé and Príncipe before. So São Tomé and Príncipe is Africa's second smallest country, and we are quite smack dab at the middle of the map. We are at the geo-coordinates 1 degrees north, 7 degrees east. So we're just north of the equator, and we're off the west coast of Africa. And here, when you travel here, you will find two incredible islands that make up this country. And the southern island is São Tomé, which is a bit larger, and the northern island where I am right now and where you see the photo of on the screen is Príncipe Island. Príncipe Island is 31 million years old. It has volcanic origins, and that has led it to become a fertile, verdant, green island with golden beaches and also incredibly rich and diverse and just inspired communities. And this is where HBD Príncipe calls home. We also here are part of the island community and have been for many years now. So I'd love to start with the story of the island and explain to you how HBD Príncipe is then part of that island story. So what is the challenge and where does HBD Príncipe come into this story? So it's first important to recognize that not only is Príncipe Island gorgeous, but it also has rich biodiversity and endemicism. For example, there are endemic bird species, there's an endemic land snail, and we have other species that are here that are found nowhere else in the world, hence why they're endemic species. So that is a challenge to figure out how to protect. As we know, in the world right now, there are many extinctions happening of various species across the planet. And so one of the critical challenges is thinking about the protection of these particularly endemic species that call Príncipe home. There also, before HBD, there were limited opportunities to participate in the formal workforce. And so while, of course, people were working in all sorts of ways, there were fewer opportunities to do so in a more formal capacity. And in particular, if we take the clock back to 2010, where there was a proposal by the national government to have much of the north of Príncipe Island be converted from rainforest into palm oil plantation. And as we know, unfortunately, palm oil has deep destruction for many areas of the world, particularly ecosystems and communities. And so that would have been a very challenging part of the island's history and story, and it would have ultimately changed the future. Luckily, there was a South African entrepreneur named Mark Shuttleworth, and I'll get into the story in a moment, but to set the scene, I think it's important to share this quotation from him that says, "Wouldn't it be amazing if we could set a standard for what's possible in the balance between nature and humanity and culture and tourism?" And that ethos really kicked off HBD Príncipe, and as you've probably heard through the stories today, is shared across many of the long run members. And so what happened was that after this proposal in 2010, luckily around the same time, Mark Shuttleworth had developed deep connection to the island of Príncipe and had deep connections with not only nature and had hiked through many parts of the island, but also through communities, and had developed a belief that the best way to protect and preserve this island that had this really strong uniqueness was through sustainable development. And the government, in recognizing this palm oil proposal that was from an outside company, recognized that would jeopardize the future of the island of Príncipe. And so to that end, the regional government rejected the proposal for palm oil and instead chose to partner with Mark Shuttleworth, who then founded HBD Príncipe. And so there is a real story from the very beginning of our company of choosing a different direction in conjunction with communities, with the regional government, and with the private sector to think about the whole future of an island. And so what happened was HBD Príncipe was born. And since the very beginning, we have had the vision for the sustainable social and economic development in Príncipe and conservation of the island's UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. So you might be wondering, what is a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve? And this is a status that the island has to recognize that it is a living learning hub and a recognition of living in balance with nature and communities. And it received this recognition because of deep collaboration between the government, between communities, and between HBD Príncipe. And that began in 2012 and has since been recertified a few years ago. And so the whole island is recognized as this status, which gives a deep difference to Sao Tome, which does not have the same status, and a sense of pride for so many community members and for the government to recognize that we are trying to demonstrate that development can be different. And specifically at HBD Príncipe, we are trying to achieve this stated vision through our mission to become a global inspiration through sustainable and integrated ecotourism, agroforestry, support services, and social initiatives. So it's a quite comprehensive mission. So we're not just tourism, and we have a lot of other aspects that go into who we are as HBD Príncipe. On the tourism side, we have nature-based ecotourism. We have 4 hotels, Bom Bom, Sundi Praia, and Rosa Sundi, which are here in Príncipe Island. And we have Omali, which is in Sao Tome. And all of those have a deep strategic focus on what does tourism through a sustainable lens look like. And so we're in great alignment with the long run and all of our peers on the call presenting today. And we also have agroforestry or agriculture, and through that we have various components. One is our agroforestry, where we're growing cacao in and beneath the rainforest canopy. Cacao is what makes chocolate, so we also make chocolate, which is quite delicious. We also have our creams and body scrubs that we make using coconuts, coconut oil that we grow within our plantations. And we also have fruits, veggies, and herbs that are certified organic that we not only use in our hotels, but also sell to local communities. And it is the only certified organic fruits and veggies and herbs on the island. And in addition to this, we have many other operations that support our agroforestry and our ecotourism. This island doesn't have robust infrastructure in some ways, and so HBD Príncipe had to develop that and build it. So for example, in the bottom middle picture, you'll see is our timber works carpentry workshop. And so we have a team of carpenters who have learned the trade of building, whether it is furniture or structures or buildings, to then have all of that be used across our hotels and across the different operations. We also have a fleet of vehicles, and we have a maintenance workshop. So in the absence of having a reliable maintenance workshop in Príncipe Island, we built that in-house. So that means that not only do we have hotels like the top picture, Rosa Sundi, or the bottom right picture of Sundi Praia nestled along the sea, we have many other opportunities for employment. So we have our carpenters, we have mechanics, we have our accountants, and we have, of course, because we are a tourism and agroforestry company, waiters and bartenders and housekeepers and general managers and our horticulture experts. And so HBD Príncipe has that shared vision and achieves that through a wide range of operations. So that's who we are. Now diving into what does this mean and how did it affect and how does it continue to affect the island of Príncipe? So first and foremost, as part of the agreement many years ago that the government chose to partner with HBD Príncipe, HBD Príncipe was granted the rights to invest in various concessions or swaths of land across the north of the island. And so today we are responsible stewards of 1,700 hectares of land in the north of the island. And we have a nature conservation team or a natural resources management team who helps understand what's happening on the ground. The team walks different trails to see if there's illegal trees being felled, if sand is being extracted illegally, if rocks are being quarried illegally, and make sure that we're an active steward of these 1,700 hectares of the north of Príncipe Island, to which we have invested and are then have that honor and responsibility to protect. We have a large source of employment. We are a large source of employment on the island. The island is about 8,500 people. And so given about half of the population is adults and half is children, we employ about 10% of the population through HBD Príncipe. And as a company, we have 600 team members total, 500 of whom are here in Príncipe. And the vast majority of that 500 are from Sao Tome and Príncipe. And not only do we offer local employment, we have a deep commitment to training and development. And since 2022, you can see here that we have nearly 21,000 hours of training. And this is training across on-the-job training, whether it's someone learning how to make a better pastry in the kitchen or someone learning how to better manage a team through conflict resolution training. And so through this, we have a local team member who leads our whole training and development program that is robust. And we actually had a training last week and we have another one next week. So we're definitely always trying to give those opportunities to learn and share when on an island that doesn't have a university here, there are not as many chances for development for someone's education. And so we try to bring that in-house and a deep commitment through that for our colleagues. We also have a full-time English teacher, and so he is providing English teaching and classes for our team members. Knowledge transfer as part of this theme is incredibly important, and since 2019, we have reduced the expatriate workforce by 40%, meaning a lot of our managers are now from São Tomé and Príncipe. We have incredible success stories of leaders who started in different positions and are now leading a full team, and has been a real dream of theirs to have achieved this with HBD Príncipe. Not only do we have this employment and the support of training, we also help our community members and the families of our team members through a medic clinic. We have a nurse, 2 nurses and 1 doctor who provide about 2,500 hours of consultations across the island annually. And we have also, those are some of our more social community projects. We have a focus on conservation as well with the island, and we partner with the nonprofit Fundação Príncipe, or the Príncipe Foundation, working on conservation of the different bird species. That might mean our experiences team of guides joining the team on an expedition to help them understand the Príncipe thrush, which is an endemic bird, and go on its monitoring hikes through the natural park in the south of the island. And HBD Príncipe actually started Fundação Príncipe years ago as the environmental and social arm of our company. And it's since spun off into its own nonprofit that is now run by a Principean. And so it is a really nice story of having incubated something that now is living on its own as our sister down the street. And one of the big things that we think about is how can we connect our vision directly to a guest and the guest experience, as many of the other long-run members do as well. And we have started in October 2021, the Conservation and Communities Contribution, or the CCC. And through this, we have created nearly 400,000 euros worth of initiatives locally in the island, whether that is through education, through support of cultural projects, and there's many to explain. So there's a report on our website if you're curious to learn what we're doing more, but one of my favorites is giving the teachers and principals of the schools the chance to fulfill wish lists for items that would make education for their students richer and stronger that they're not able to get themselves. And so that's one way that our guests every night, by paying 25 euros per person per night, are directly helping achieve these outcomes here at Príncipe Island. And as mentioned earlier, there is a lower availability of infrastructure. And so this meant that because of our commitment to be responsible operator of tourism and agroforestry, we needed to develop an in-house waste and recycling team who goes across our operations 3 times a week, is collecting the waste and recycling and then turning that into useful products for end of life. And not only do we want to focus on HBD in-house, but think of how can we work on this as an island. And so on Earth Day in 2023, we launched what used to be just an in-house process, which was recycling bottles and wine bottles, beer bottles into a glass sand that we had in our operations. We expanded this island-wide. And so now anyone across the island can participate and recycle their glass bottles and receive glass sand in return. And since the start of the project, we have had more than 52 tons of recycling. And this glass sand is then used by those same community members to use in fencing and in the roofs of their homes as a construction project, which ultimately has a conservation mission because it is illegal to extract beach sand, but with an absence of building material, sometimes it still happens. And so we're able to provide an alternative through the glass sand and collect this glass bottles from communities, turn it into glass sand, and give it back to community members at no cost. So I'd like to end with 2 things. One is that when we asked our team members to define HBD Príncipe in 1 word, or what in 1 word you admire most about HBD Príncipe, the 2 most common words were opportunity and sustainability. I think this really speaks volumes to the power of tourism when done responsibly and when done with that vision for the future of an island, considering the communities and conservation. And so you can see Vander in the top corner, who's now our experiences team member, and he started as a driver many years ago at one of our hotels. And so now he's leading a team of more than 15 team members and has had this opportunity to grow and develop within the company. And of course, the sustainability of having an operation that is focused on the island, on people, and on the 4 Cs through the long runs ethos. And through all of this, we say in Príncipe, estamos juntos, which means we're together or we're in this together. And it is a core part of how we are working with the island communities and how we understand we are one player on this large island. So whether it is with the kids who help with cleanups in Saturday early mornings in their community, whether it's our local dance groups, our artisans, our fishermen, or of course, our beloved sea turtles who nest here and then hatch here on the beaches. There's such an importance in recognizing we work together best when we all work together, and that's how we will achieve the vision that we share for this island that we have been striving towards and are getting closer to, but it takes all of us to be able to achieve. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what we're doing here on this little island here in Príncipe in Africa, and how since the beginning we have had a focus on sustainable development and conservation. Thanks all for listening today, for hopefully being inspired by a place you might not have heard about before, and we love you to continue the conversation with us. So please do reach out if you have questions, and hopefully see you here in Príncipe.